Hi all of you. I really did look forward to standing in front of all of you in person in an auditorium, welcoming you to this kickoff meeting in the research network WACnet. But as you all know, things have changed. As one of my big heroes, Bob Dylan, he puts it in one of the titles of one of his most recent songs, by the same name by the way. And Dylan, he actually continues in that song. People are crazy and times are strange. I'm locked in tight, I'm out of range. I used to care, but things have changed. Well, much of this is true in this present situation, except that many people actually do care. And I do care for getting this network launched in a good manner, despite these strange times. So here comes my welcome online. So let's begin at the beginning. And in the case of WACnet, the beginning holds promise of the future that the WACnet Research Network is part of, since the project's two research topics, the national web domains and events on the web, were already present in the very early days of web archiving. Way back in the summer of 1997, the Royal Library of Sweden established the web archive collection Kulturarv 3, with the aim of preserving the .se web domain, which is an entire national web domain. Also in the mid-1990s, in 1996, the American Internet Archive was established, and to demonstrate the value of preserving websites, it started by archiving one big and important event at the time, the US presidential elections in 1996. So one could argue that from the very beginning of web archiving, the two lines of inquiry in the WACnet network were already laid out. However, the establishment of web collections does not necessarily lead to web archive research. To make that happen, two things are needed. First, a research infrastructure to open up the web archive to researchers, and second, a critical mass of researchers who are interested in studying web archive collections. Two very early examples of research interest in events of the web or on the web actually exist. Back in 2001-2002, the Danish pilot project called netarchiv.dk, which was the precursor to what later became the National Danish Web Archive, studied three events on the web: municipal elections, parliamentary elections, and the 9/11. The other very early example is one that you probably know many of you, Kirsten Foot and Steve Schneider's pioneering work that came out as a book, Web Campaigning, which was about US elections in 2000, 2002 and 2004 on the web. However, these very early projects turned out to be isolated incidents. The impact among researchers was limited because a wider research community, which could kind of take up the thread in the long term and have a long-term interest, were simply lacking. So it has taken some time to establish research infrastructures and research interest, but we are slowly getting there. And the WACnet Research Network is the result of three previous attempts to establish a transnational research infrastructure and to raise awareness among scholars across countries. The first one was way back, but at least some years ago, in 2016 and 17. A two-step EU Horizon 2020 application for a transnational research infrastructure was submitted. Probably know it, some of you, a research infrastructure for the study of the archive web, or as the acronym was, RESOL. Unfortunately, the RESOL application was not successful, so in 2018, an application for a cost action was drafted for the research network TrueWARC, an acronym for Transnational Researcher Use of Web Archives. While the RESOL application was mainly about the development of transnational research infrastructure for the study of the archive web, in combination with research projects, things were sort of reversed with the TrueWARC application, where focus was more clearly on research and less on research infrastructure. But the TrueWARC cost application suffered a similar fate to that of the RESOL application. Then it was improved and resubmitted in 2019 with the acronym DigiCult, Digital Cultures in Europe through Web Archives. Alas, still without success. However, although none of these three applications were successful, their drafting has actually de facto established a sort of network in the making on which the present network of WARCnet can build. So one of the tangible forums where what we could call an informal proto-network has materialized is in the RESOR conferences. They were initially established as one among several interim activities between, on the one hand, the time when the RESOR application was initially planned to be submitted in 2014 and then 2016, where the application was actually submitted. I had to come up with, between those 2 dates, 2 years, some activities to keep the network going, and one of them was the RESOR conference. And the first RESOR conference was actually organized in Aarhus in Denmark in 2015. It was thought of as a one-off event, but a great success, and it was a great success, and that success in a way reflected what you could call the growing interest in the field among web archivists and among researchers studying the web archives. So towards the end of the conference in Aarhus in 2015, it was decided to make the conference the first in a series of conferences. So the following two have already been organized in 2017 in London and 2019 in Amsterdam, and the next two are already planned. 2021 will take place in Luxembourg and 2023 will be in Marseille. And all four have actually been organized by members of the WARCnet. Jane Winters in London, Anne Hellman in Amsterdam, Valérie Schaffer in Luxembourg, and Sophie Gebet will organize in Marseille. Of course, not surprisingly, many of the participants in the WARCnet have been part of this, what you could call, application journey, from the very early beginnings in 2012, when the first call for participants in what later became RESOR was sent out. So it's therefore a great pleasure that so many have stayed on board to see that in 2019, the Danish Independent Research Fund for the Humanities decided to support a transnational research network with the National Web Archives as natural participants. And especially about the last point, I'm very happy that the Danish Research Foundation accepted that we could include web archives, although it is a research network. But it's also worth noting that despite the fact that no transnational project as such has succeeded yet, a number of national research projects with participants from other countries have been launched. And I'm going to mention two of them. First, the UK-based Big UK Domain Data for the Arts and Humanities with the acronym BUDA. It was a project that ran in 2014, funded by the Arts and Humanities Research Council in the UK and headed by Jane Winters. And 2 years later, in 2016, the French Archives Sauvegarde Attentat Paris, which was funded by the Centre National de Recherche Scientifique and headed by Valérie Schaffer. So, in addition, it's also worth mentioning that other actors have played a pivotal role in contributing to the creation of transnational research infrastructures and raising awareness about web archives among researchers. Most notably, the International Internet Preservation Consortium, the IIPC, whose open annual web archiving conference for many years have constituted a valuable forum where web archivists and researchers can meet and share ideas. So all in all, today the WARCnet network is part of a vibrant international web archive studies community with a growing interest among web archivists and web archives as such in collaborating with researchers, and where the new researchers, in particular young researchers, continue to join in. So in my view, the stage is set for taking the next steps in the development of the interface between web archives and researchers. Finally, the WARCnet network is only made possible by the support of a number of organizations, institutions, and individuals. So I give thanks to the Danish Independent Research Fund for the Humanities for having supported the idea of the network, to Aarhus University, and particularly the Department of Media and Journalism Studies in the School of Communication and Culture for hosting the project, and of course to all the participants for your enthusiasm and dedication. A special thanks, though, to the person who actually by coincidence started this journey. In September 2012, at the opening of the Danish National Research Infrastructure for the Humanities, Digital Humanities Lab, or DICHUM Lab, Sally Chambers, at the time Secretary General for the DARIA EU Coordination Office, suggested to me and a colleague from NetLab, which is the web archive section of DICUM Lab, that we should head a submission of an expression of interest to the EU Commission's consultation on what they called possible topics for future activities for integrating and opening national research infrastructures. So therefore we all owe a lot of thanks to Sally, now at the Ghent Center for Digital Humanities and a participant in WACNet as well, for this somewhat casual suggestion way back in 2012 that eventually became the RESOR application and later, through several detours, the WACNet network. So welcome to all of you.